My husband's affair with his coworker was exposed when my sister secretly filmed them lying about business trips, spending our savings on gifts for her, and even bringing her to our home. It all started on a Wednesday evening, a day that had been like any other. Or so I thought. I had just returned home from work, tired but content, ready to spend some time with my husband, Mark. We had been together for nearly 8 years, and although things hadn't been perfect recently, I never imagined what was about to unfold. I stepped inside, setting my purse on the kitchen counter. The house was quiet, which struck me as odd. Mark was usually home by now. I checked my phone, no messages from him. I shrugged it off, assuming he was running late. That's when I heard it. The soft sound of voices from the living room, muffled but unmistakable. One of those voices was his. The other, it was her. Her name was Jessica. His coworker. The one he had mentioned in passing a few times, always with a tone that I had never thought twice about. But something in my gut told me this wasn't right. I stood still for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts. I knew I had to act fast. I called my sister, Lily. She had always been my confidant, the person who understood me better than anyone else. Lily, I whispered, my voice shaking, I think something's going on. Mark is here with Jessica. I don't know what to do. Wait, what? Lily's voice was full of alarm. Where are you? I'm home, in the kitchen. I heard them talking, and it's definitely her. I don't know if they're just talking, but I can't explain it. It doesn't feel right. There was a pause on the other end, then Lily spoke again, her tone suddenly more urgent. I'm coming over. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't do anything rash. I hung up and quietly made my way to the living room, staying hidden behind the wall. Through the crack, I could see them, sitting too close, laughing too much. Mark's hand was resting on Jessica's knee, a gesture that made my stomach twist. They were too engrossed in their conversation to notice me. But then Jessica leaned in closer, her voice low and seductive. I can't stop thinking about you, Mark. Every moment we spend together feels so right. My heart sank. The world seemed to blur around me. Was I hearing this right? My husband, the man I trusted, was flirting with another woman right in our own home. I felt like I was suffocating. But then, just as I was about to turn away, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Lily. Get out of there, now, she said, urgency in her voice. I'm outside. I've got something you need to see. I didn't ask questions. I grabbed my coat and slipped out of the house, meeting Lily outside. She didn't say a word, just handed me her phone. I looked at the screen, and my blood ran cold. It was a video. A video of Mark and Jessica. They were in our living room, and this time, the camera was focused on them intimately. Mark's lips were on Jessica's neck, his hands were all over her. It was a betrayal, one so raw and undeniable that I couldn't breathe. Lily didn't have to say anything. The look in her eyes told me everything. She had been filming them, catching every moment of their infidelity. My sister had been suspicious for weeks, and she had been following Mark and Jessica, waiting for the truth to come to light. You knew? I whispered, my voice cracking. I knew something wasn't right. I had to be sure, Lily said softly. And now you know the truth. I felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath me. I had spent years building a life with Mark, a life I thought was filled with trust and love. But in an instant, it had all shattered. I couldn't breathe. The world felt like it was closing in on me, every breath heavy, suffocating. I stared at the video, watching as Mark's hands caressed Jessica's back, their lips locked in a passionate kiss that sent a chill through my entire body. I can't believe this, I whispered, my voice trembling. He was doing this behind my back all this time. Lily wrapped her arms around me, pulling me into a tight hug. I'm so sorry, sis. You didn't deserve this. I could feel the weight of the betrayal crushing me. The man I had loved, trusted, and built a life with was now nothing more than a stranger. A liar. A cheat. He's been lying to me for months, I muttered, shaking my head in disbelief. Business trips, late nights at work. All of it was a lie. He was with her. Lily pulled back slightly, her expression determined. You need to confront him. This can't go on any longer. He's playing you for a fool. I wiped my eyes, the tears threatening to spill over. I don't even know how to face him. How could he do this to me, Lily? How could he betray me like this? We'll figure it out, Lily said, her voice firm. But first, let's go back inside. We need to hear what he has to say. You deserve the truth. We walked back into the house, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt like I was walking into a nightmare, each step heavier than the last. Mark was still in the living room with Jessica, oblivious to what was coming. As we entered, they looked up, their faces quickly shifting from laughter to guilt. Jenna? Mark's voice was laced with confusion and panic. What are you doing here? I live here, Mark, I said, my voice cold, almost unrecognizable. This is my home. And you, I couldn't finish the sentence. My emotions were a tangled mess of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. Jessica stood up, trying to act casual, but I could see the unease in her eyes. Jenna, I didn't mean for this to happen. Don't, I cut her off, my voice shaking with rage. Don't you dare try to explain. I've seen enough. Mark's eyes flicked between me and Lily, his face turning pale. What do you mean? What's going on? You don't get to act confused, Mark, Lily said, stepping forward, her voice cutting through the tension. You've been caught. My sister knows everything. We have proof. Mark's face twisted in disbelief. What are you talking about? I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, pressing play on the video Lily had filmed. The footage played, the image of Mark and Jessica's intimate moment flashing across the screen. Mark's face drained of color as he watched himself on the screen, his body stiffening in shock. You were filming us?" he stammered, his voice weak. This is all a mistake, Jenna. It's not what it looks like." I laughed bitterly, my eyes burning with tears I refused to shed. A mistake? You're telling me this is a mistake? How many times have you lied to me, Mark? How many times have you gone out and left me wondering where you were, what you were doing? Mark opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He was speechless, his lies exposed in the most brutal way. "I don't want to hear your excuses," I spat, my voice rising with fury. "You've been lying to me, using our money to buy her gifts, spending time with her while I was at home waiting for you. You brought her into our house. You made me look like a fool." Jessica, who had been standing off to the side, now spoke up, her voice trembling. "Jenna, I never meant for this to happen. I thought." "You thought?" I cut her off, my fury boiling over. "You thought what? That I wouldn't find out? That you could just waltz into my life and steal my husband without consequences?" She recoiled slightly, and I could see the guilt in her eyes. But it didn't matter. She wasn't the one I was angry with. It was Mark. Mark, who had promised to love me, to cherish me, and had broken every vow we'd ever made. "I want you to leave," I said to Jessica, my voice as cold as ice. "Now." She hesitated, glancing at Mark, who didn't say a word. She knew there was no place for her here anymore. Slowly, she turned and walked out, leaving me alone with the man who had destroyed everything. As soon as the door closed behind her, the silence in the room was deafening. Mark stood there, his face pale, his hands trembling. He looked like a man who had just realized the full weight of his actions. "Jenna, please," he began, his voice pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But it's not too late. We can fix this." I shook my head, the tears finally falling. "No, Mark. It's too late. You've destroyed everything. You've broken me." Mark took a step forward, his hand reaching out for mine, but I pulled away. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I whispered. "The man I loved, the man I trusted, is gone. You've betrayed me in ways I can't even put into words. I can't look at you the same way anymore." Mark's face crumpled, the guilt written all over it. "I'm sorry, Jenna. I am so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please, let me try to make it right." I stood there, staring at him, trying to find the strength to say something, anything. But all I could do was shake my head. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Mark. You've shattered everything we built." The days that followed were a blur. Mark begged for forgiveness, showing up at my work, sending me texts, calling me nonstop. But no apology could erase the hurt. No promises could take away the feeling of betrayal that gnawed at me every moment. I moved out of our shared home a week later, staying with Lily while I tried to figure out what came next. My life, once so secure, was now a pile of broken pieces I didn't know how to put back together. And Mark? He was left with nothing but regret, a broken marriage, and the woman who had destroyed everything he had. But as for me, I knew that I was stronger than the man who had broken me. I would rebuild my life. I would find myself again. And I would never, ever let someone like him into my heart again.